So welcome to today's update video. In Eastern Pacific, I didn't do an SOI. First off, we should point out that I didn't really have time to make a video, even it was in the mood to make a video then. But first off, my last video was Tropical Storm Pamela. That sort of was projected to be a rapid intensification case, but actually busted badly and ended up making landfall as a sloppy, sheared minimal hurricane in Marshall time about a week and a half ago. So, and gradually since then, the gold model slowly started picking at least some of the ensemble members from the GFS and European, and eventually the operational GFS and European started picking up on development of another tropical cyclone off the coast of Mexico. There's a picking up on development of another tropical cyclone off the west coast of Mexico. And the support kind of waxed and waned a little bit, and the track oscillated a little bit. I mean, originally the GFS still, however, was noticeably more aggressive than the European, but not nearly as much as they were for Pamela. Initially, it did appear that some mid-level shear would cause issues when it comes in. This might still be the case, but some expectations were low for a while, but overall our models were relatively persistent, even if the GFS not go as strong as they did with Pamela. And now a couple days ago, the ANC, we first started monitoring this area of development on Sunday or Monday, and the ANC tagged the system yesterday morning as Invest 90, I believe 9090 now, and then few hours. Then earlier this morning, the National Hurricane Center upgraded Invest 9090 to tropical depression. There's currently an ASCAP pass that did reveal winds of gale force. So it would not surprise me if the National Hurricane Center did not upgrade its newly designated tropical depression 7E into a tropical storm at the next advisory package, which is in 2 hours. It's 2 hours as of recording this video. The current intensity is at around 30 knots and 35 miles per hour, with minimum central pressure of 1,007 millibars, located at 12.7 north, 100.5 west. It's moving west at around 10 knots. It's moving noticeably slower than what it was yesterday. That's because the storm is kind of forecasted. It's forecast. I'll get to the track. The storm's moving slower because as it's feeling the As it's nearing the weakness in the ridge, that's going to allow for a northward turn. Overall, the storm looks pretty healthy. It might be a little bit. You can definitely see some westerly shear that's caused by, appears to be caused by a displaced uplevel anticyclone. But overall, the anticyclone is supposed to build over the system over upcoming days. You can see the storm does have a very healthy curved band signature, indicative of at least moderate tropical storm intensity. And you can see a central dense overcast. And even if the center of circulation, even if the center of circulation is not fully embedded in the deep convection itself is looking, convection near the center itself is looking a little shallow. And the system might not be fully vertically stacked yet. I'll wait to microwave before making a more definitive judgment. Overall, the waters are very warm, and the ship's output does suggest very low wind shear. And as a result, we thought there does appear to be on the surface to have an excellent chance of becoming a potential hurricane. Say with a GFS run. You can see the GFS bringing the system as a pretty formidable hurricane into the Mexican state of Guajardo in about 3 days. And overall, I will pull this up to 2, and I believe they're still building. I want to double check this, but I believe the GFS is still building an excellent upper level anticyclone. It's still building it. The GFS is definitely showing a very favorable favorable pole with alpha interaction, having it being located good enough. Yeah, you can definitely see a very, very highly divergent setup near landfall about 36 hours. And you can see it reasonably embedded in upper-level anticyclone that should provide relatively light wind shear and it's protected from the subtropical jet, which is actually producing unusually strong westerlies created by this due to this unusually strong west coast trough that we've had in recent months. We have an unusually strong jet extending from Baja California all the way at the 200 millibar level, extending of 65 hurricane force winds from Baja California all the way through the Gulf of Mexico and into the Atlantic. And it's kind of also helping to contribute to the quiet month of a tropical cyclone activity in the Atlantic that we've had. And the GFS is continuing to show a favorable interaction with the jet streak. GFS is continuing to show a favorable interaction with the jet streak, which is causing which is going to enhance the upper level alpha pattern, especially when create an excellent poleward alpha channel that could really fuel the storm's intensification as the system nears the Jalisco coast. However, the system doesn't really have a ton of time either, so that's kind of the good news. And eventually, the system may begin to encounter some due to the fact that the system is moving a little bit further north than the upper compared to the rate of the upper level anticyclone. It's possible that the upper level anticyclone will become a little bit displaced and thus be inducing some easterly instead of inducing the light westerly shear, could be inducing some light southeasterly shear, and that could result in slight weakening towards landfall. There's also the historical tendency of Mexican storms right before they make landfall to at least weaken a little bit due to the downsloping friction effects with the higher terrain of Mexico. There's not really any signs of some of the sneaky mid-level shear that's, I believe, that even though there was some hints on it earlier in the model run, there's not really any explicit signs at this point in the game. We'll keep an eye on that, because we've seen this happen over Mexico many times, where mid-level shear unexpectedly becomes an issue. Not even seeing a product on Sims mid-level shear. Anyway, the GFS had initialized with no mid-level shear not actively being an issue. Will be actually being a small issue now, but I mean not being an issue after today. And having light 4 to 5 knot winds. And having light 4 knots of deep layer shear and 5 knots of a mid-level shear by hour 24. European track-wise, there's also some difference. The GFS brings the system into a hollow. Myowakehan. The H-Work brings the system into the Mexican state of Myowakehan. And the European bring the system seems to favor hit near the Colima-Jalisco border as a minimal hurricane, while the GFS and H-Work show a stronger system. As long as if the system avoids sneaky mid-level shear, I think this is an excellent candidate to become a Category 1. It's not a Category 2, and there's probably not enough time for any serious rapid intensification. Although the GFS model does explicitly show a clear eye before landfall, which would be I would like to see more evidence of a formative inner core before going too gun-ho with intensity, especially as we're coming after a historic bust of Hurricane Carmela. I mean, track-wise, I think anything from I think there's also, especially with both the GFS ensembles and the European, there's a massive there's a massive westward bias of Mars that I've touched on in other videos, and as a result, I think we're likely to see a track. I just see a little bit more of an eastward track, and which NASA Argentina is currently predicting. But anywhere from, I think, Colima to Guajaro, or anywhere from Manzanillo to maybe as far east as Acapulco was likely to at least spot border effects or something with my ACAN likely being most likely place for significant landfall. It's likely to be very heavy rain. I'll show the GFS. Probably forget to do it later, but I'll show the GFS over the next 4 days doesn't show that much rainfall, but it does show a few areas on the coastal areas getting up to about 7 inches of rain, and much of the Mexican Riviera getting at least 2 inches of rain from the periphery of the system. And given you how large some of these outer bands appear to be during its formative stages, especially it would not surprise me if even more rainfall fell than what was currently modeled by the GFS. Wind threat depends on how it's drawn, and as well as the storm surge threat, it depends on how strong and where the system makes landfall. I can probably touch on that in a future video if need to be. But regardless, the system is, as I mentioned before, the system is likely to be a minimal hurricane by the time, a minimal hurricane, possibly up to a Category 2, maybe a Category 3 hurricane by the time it makes landfall. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed this.